Do not buy a home in Denver until you have watched this first. What is it about buying a home in Denver that has knocked buyers off their rockers when they learn about these things? Hey everybody, it's Alyson with Live South Denver, your real estate strategist and realtor for the South Denver area. If you want to hear all about the stuff that people need to know about moving to Denver, like I need chapstick and you need to drink more water, and what about altitude sickness, and yes, you need sunscreen, I've got that video for you. You can watch that here. But we are blowing past all of that fluff and digging into the stuff that really blows people's minds when they're getting serious about buying a home here. Let's jump right in. First up, taxes. Yep, now Colorado is not the most unfriendly tax state. I talk a lot about how friendly we are when you're comparing us to other places, even Texas, which doesn't have income tax. However, when we're slicing and dicing different places and we're looking at new construction versus existing homes and how to get the most bang for your buck, taxes really stick out and are shocking to my clients. If you buy a home that is, say, 10 years old or older, you're probably going to pay a property tax rate that hovers around 0.8% or less. That's not bad at all here in the state. If you buy something that is, say, 5 years or newer, then you're looking at a property tax rate that is at least 1.1%, possibly more. There is an area of town that has property tax rates that are 1.4%. That is huge. And since having a new construction home here around $1 million is not uncommon at all, that means your property taxes can easily be, or will be soon, around $14,000 a year. Unlike California, who reevaluates every time the property is sold, unlike Texas, who reevaluates every 3 years, here in Colorado, we reevaluate property taxes every 2 years. Our reassessments come out on the odd year, and that means that then in the following year, that assessment is going to be in place and you'll owe those taxes the next year. This is helpful to know because in a year like this year in 2023, when you're looking at homes and you see the taxes that are assessed on that property, they may or may not be accurate. For example, I looked up a home that was $1 million. It said the taxes on it were $7,000. Well, the taxes have actually been reassessed already, but they're pulling from the 2022 tax year. The taxes on that home are more like $13,800 now for that property, but they won't show up until next year when they become official and finalized. Because we do have a window of time in which to push back and say, I'd like you to reevaluate that, county assessor. I'm not sure I agree with those. And there's a long process. So those taxes aren't finalized, but they probably won't change. And so you as a buyer this year, if you're looking in 2023, you're like, oh my gosh, look, those taxes are only $7,000. That's fantastic. Well, that would be, but those aren't accurate moving forward. You're actually paying nearly double that. We had such a big year during the pandemic season, right? Couple of years, that those taxes have been reevaluated at a shockingly high rate to most people. We have seen houses have doubled their taxes. Most of them are a 50% increase, but we have seen some incredibly drastic changes. And understand the age of the home and how it impacts what that means for you going forward in terms of overall costs. Insurance. This is one that is another sticker shock for a lot of my people. Now, I just went back and looked up my insurance policy just to kind of give you guys some semblance, lay of the land for what it's costing. I do not have the largest home. I live in a pretty modest place. My goal is to pay it off rather than live in a mansion. But I do have a newer home, 5 years old, has a concrete tile roof, and so age of home and the structure components do contribute to how much you're going to pay for your premium. Now, my premium per year only runs around $2,000. That is fantastic. I have clients who pay much more than that. But some of the reasons would be they have an older home, they have a room that has a traditional asphalt shingle roof, and then of course location can play into that drastically, right? If you're in Monument, if you're in Evergreen, if you're on open space, because you could have more risk of grass fire coming up to your home. There are other factors that play into these things. I'm not on open space, even though I have a nice large lot and some mountain views. Now, where I do not feel like I'm raking it in and doing really well is the fact that we have multiple cars, teen drivers, and so I am just in the same boat with everyone else in that we have some large premiums in this department. Colorado is a tough place to be insured. When it comes to vehicles, we're known for being a state with a high proportion of uninsured drivers. And then there is the hail component, which causes damage to not only homes, but to cars. So there is a lot of risk for the insurers. Here's what the Rocky Mountain Information Association has to say. Colorado has the third highest risk of wildfire and the second highest number of hail claims in the country. And also 5 carriers now insure 65% of the state, and their losses are greater here in Colorado in every state except for 4 other ones in the country. So it kind of gives you a clue, a hint as to why it costs so much to be insured here. It is not just our homes and wildfires, it is hail and hail damage on our roofs, but also our cars. All right, let's transition away from some money talk and some of those things that are a little shock to the bottom line. Let's talk school districts, because lifestyle is another big component, right? So when you're looking at homes, it is not so cookie cutter and cut and dry as to where you're going to land in relation to your home or your county and your school district. If you're looking in Douglas County, then you're going to be in the Douglas County School District. That one is easy. Douglas County means you're looking in Lone Tree, Parker, Highlands Ranch, Castle Rock, Castle Pines. Not all of Littleton. Littleton gets a little messy. If you're in Littleton, you could be in Douglas County, you could be in the Littleton County School Districts, you can be in Jeffco. There is a lot of opportunity for you to be in any number of school districts if you have just a Littleton search going. When you're looking in the Cherry Creek School District, you could be in any number of places. You could be in Cherry Hills, Greenwood Village, you could be in Aurora, you could be in Centennial, a lot of places that Cherry Hills goes to. So the question is, are you going to be searching by school district? Are you going to be searching by a particular school? Are you going to be searching by location and commute? And then we really need you to be verifying that the schools line up. And what school? Are you searching by high school because you want to feed into a high school? You're going to be there in a couple years. I mean, I have a family that has a toddler, an infant, and they're searching by high school feeder system. My advice to them is I wouldn't drill down like that because they could redistrict at any time and draw those lines differently, but that's how they're focused right now. But if you're going to be moving in a couple years, absolutely that's efficient. I have found that questions about water and water costs are coming up much more often as of late. There are some water politics. People are coming from very different places around the country, either where water is not an issue and it rains so much that they realize when they're coming out here it's a little bit different, or they're coming from somewhere who is similar to us, west of the Mississippi, and it's already dry and they understand the nuances of water. Well, what I can tell you is that there are so many different water providers, even within one municipality. So a lot of different water providers within an address within Castle Rock. So many water providers within an address inside Parker that you are going to have to check with that water provider what a bill might look like. Now, I'm not going to put all that responsibility on you, but the best way to do that is when you find a house that you like, what we need to do is ask that seller if they can provide a year's worth of utility bills. It'll give you a good feel if you're on Xcel Energy or maybe if you're on Core IREA, what the gas and the electric are. It'll give you a sense of what their water bills are. If they have a large lot, how much have they had to water it? It could be different if it's a flat lot versus a walkout. Do they have a lot of rock? Do they have a lot of sod? Or is it a shaded lot? Is it a sunny lot? All of that will play into how much water you're needing. And then some of that is all tied into how much the water company is actually charging for the water. That comes down to just how soon they got into the pipeline and requested the usage of water. I know there's a big hot topic of discussion, and you'll find plenty online about Sterling Ranch and how expensive their water is. And it's really just because they're too far back in the queue and they've had to buy water and really negotiate so hard for it, and they were losers in the negotiation that they pay a lot for water. Other places are really ahead of the curve and you get much more advantageous pricing for water. But as we get farther out in development, there's going to be a lot more places with new homes that probably have similar pricing to Sterling Ranch because they're essentially losers in the water game. So that's something else to factor in and consider. And also just overall availability. What aquifer are they drawing from? What is the source? Do you feel like it has a lasting and sufficient supply of water for you? That is all due diligence that does fall on the buyer. We give you the information, but we can't determine how much do you feel is sufficient for you, right? And the same thing if we're buying on well and septic. A lot with well, we do well inspections, and then we talk through that information and make sure you feel good about how much water you've got tapped in underneath you. On a positive note, before we leave water costs, I have yet to have someone move here and tell me for any utility that Colorado is more expensive than where they've come from. All right. To tie into the discussion of water politics, let's touch on politics in general. I know, touchy subject. I have clients from every side, left side, right side, down the middle. I serve everyone. I have had requests for people who want to live somewhere liberal. I have had requests from people who want me to help them find a school where their kids will never wear a mask. I have had requests for people to help me live in a neighborhood where people look like them. I've had requests to live in a place where there aren't a lot of churches. I've had requests for places to live where there are a lot of churches. You name it, I have pretty much had the request, and I'm happy to do what I can to help fulfill them, though there are a lot of things I can't do. I have to kind of leave that research up to you as well. But politics, preferences, religious, non-religious, liberal, not liberal, conservative, in the middle, don't care, hate it all, I hear it all. But to help you understand the ways of Colorado and what it looks like here, let's take a look at the maps of how Colorado voted in the last couple of elections. We're going to look at the last presidential election, then we'll look at our last local election. You can see there is some red, blue, purple, and a little bit of everything in between. Even along the Front Range here in Denver, there's generally a spot for everyone. And inside communities, what I have found is the culture of Colorado is generally live and let live. I want to be happy doing my thing, you be happy doing your thing, and if we can all come out in the street and have a beer in the summer, throw some cornhole, if our kids can play on the bikes together, if you're out hiking and your dog doesn't snip at my dog, then we're all just going to get along, and it kind of doesn't matter. That's generally the vibe, regardless of where you stand politically when you're voting. And continuing in the vein of politics, if you are coming in part or in full for legalized marijuana, there are places where you will not find dispensaries. Douglas County is one of those locations, no dispensaries in Douglas County, so you will have to drive for your goods. And if you're considering Colorado Springs, the town of Colorado Springs does not have any recreational dispensaries either. One more thing tied to the politics around Colorado, there are a lot of restrictions on short-term rentals. I won't speak for Colorado on the whole, I will speak for the Denver metro area. How's that? That's probably more appropriate. In Denver itself, you have to have a license for short-term rentals, and they are for your primary residence. That means you can't have a duplex. You can't buy a side-by-side and live in one and rent out the other. They don't consider the other side your primary residence. Your primary residence is you, your roof, your doors. So there are a lot of rules. They're really trying to cut down on the opportunities for short-term rentals. When it comes to long-term rental, 30 days or more, it becomes so much easier. Castle Rock has yet to really do much in terms of restricting short-term rentals. Now an HOA can, but just in terms of the municipality, there are fewer. Thornton, kind of up toward the east side of the Denver metro area, fewer restrictions. You really have to dig into each single municipality, but it is much harder to do short-term rental. I have had a lot of clients want to work through it with me, and we just cannot find the right place where it gets them close enough to, say, a Red Rocks or to the mountains or to downtown, where they feel like they can make the churn work and be within the rules because they're really trying to keep it clean and not have fines or have something happen to their property where they're having to churn it over to a longer term rental. So that is a set of politics that a lot of my folks that want to have an investment property don't like. So keep your ears tuned. If you're okay to play against the rules, then feel free. If you're staying here in an Airbnb, they're probably not playing by the rules, most likely. So it does happen. All right, moving on from politics. Can we get out of that topic and go on to something else? What is a typical home here? I know this maybe seems like a silly topic, but it actually comes up in conversation a lot. Typical homes in Colorado are going to have a basement. Not every, just typical. If you're coming from California, Arizona, the deep south with loads of water, basements are utterly unique. You're not used to them. It's also going to be unique if you've never been here to tour a home with a basement to get a feel for what a house with a basement is laid out like, how you'll use the space. So that is one of the reasons I love to see my folks at least come out and walk homes in Denver, get a feel, new construction, existing open houses. Because having come from Florida myself, the house styles out here are so different. They are nothing like they are in Virginia, where I have loads of family. A Northeast house, a Southern house, a Colorado house, they all feel very different. Now, new construction has all taken on a bit of similarity, but if you're coming from a house that is, every one of them is built in the 70s and you compare them, they are gonna feel quite a bit different from each other. And the basement component here and how we allocate space definitely brings a different vibe. And we also don't have attics. I have definitely had people ask where the attic hatch is, ask how they get up there, how they can use the space. We do not touch our attics. The builders will not be happy with you if you put anything up there. It is purely for insulation and ventilation for the home. I've been asked why we have basements. It has to do with the frost line. They're going to dig the foundation below the frost line. That's going to take them down several feet at this point now because people want to use that space. They go down a little bit farther. You pay the premium for the extra concrete and work, but you get a livable space down there if you choose to use it. My husband grew up here. He's a native, and his house, it was a tri-level, it was a 60s house, but their basement was really more of a cellar, only about 5 feet tall in that space. So they did not have what we consider a typical basement because builders didn't always do that back then. So now it's just become more of a usable space, so they're giving you extra space. I mean, some basements, my gosh, they have 10, 11 foot ceilings. That is not because the frost line is that deep. It's just become the cultural norm and it's a space we use. So the function is to get below the frost line. We go deeper, so it's a really usable space. When it comes to creating a search for you, whether it's with me, another agent, if you're online, you are gonna want to be a little more narrow and creative in how you create your search, because almost every single family home is going to be a 3-bed, 2-bath, 1 to 2 car garage minimum, usually 2 to 3, and have a basement. So you're going to have to really dig in to get something that fits exactly your niche, so you're not combing through hundreds and hundreds of homes. One of the top criteria I hear from people when they get here is, I want mountain views and open space, right? I want to be able to see. Well, that open space, it's going to cost you. I have talked about this in a previous video. I pulled the data. I didn't just make this up. I have analyzed and analyzed and analyzed. I've done it in a couple different ways. I've looked across different cities within cities, but the price for open space runs about $250,000. Particularly and specifically if that open space is west facing, which means you have the opportunity for a mountain view. So you overlay your home search criteria with, hey, I want open space and or I want a mountain view. You quickly whittle down your options, but you also quickly push up your budget. Now, it's not a flat $250,000 premium on every house. I've seen it as low as $90,000, but that's going to be a teeny house, a much smaller house. But if we're talking a good 2,800, 3,500 square foot house, we're in 6 figures. We get bigger than that, that number goes up. I have seen $300,000 plus on larger homes. So please know, as you're crafting your budget and trying to create your experience coming to Colorado, it is a large premium to be on open space and or to have mountain views, particularly the mountain views. And everybody wants them. People who live here want them. We love our Rocky Mountains. But the lifestyle here, because of how we work open space into our culture, we spend our lottery dollars on it, you have access to trails and open space and terrain that's going to get you high up to see those mountains on an easy evening walk and certainly on your daily drives. So if you can spend your money elsewhere or have to spend your money elsewhere, don't feel like you're going to miss out on every turn. So pick and choose, figure out what that means for you. Last is traffic. I don't know if this is a huge surprise because we have traffic that is less than LA, less than Houston, less than Miami, but it still comes up a lot. That desire to keep the commute time down to under half an hour from the city center, even for my folks who don't live there now. It's the idea of keeping job opportunities for the future open while not just killing the lifestyle for the family down the road, right? Especially those families that are growing, yet to be, and still on the way. But the idea of, I don't want to have to commute more than 30 minutes when I have kids. I don't want to have to commute more than 30 minutes at all. I don't like it. So where do I buy my home to have the ideal lifestyle? Well, generally, if you want to be under 30 minutes, you're going to be inside the 470 belt corridor. That's your best bet. That's great. Totally doable. A lot of those same people want to have new construction. Well, new construction inside the 470 belt is few and far between. So it really comes down to choices, what you want today, what you're willing to sacrifice for now versus move up for later. So you really have some things you have to figure out. And also that west side of town is a very popular component of the lifestyle piece for folks who love to go hiking, love to go skiing, love to get up into the mountains regularly, plan to ski a lot in the winter, love to hike or camp or get up into the rivers and lakes or maybe fish in the summer. So if you're super duper active or you're coming here for that or have a toy Jeep and are going to go off-roading, being to the west side will really cut down on your commute, could save you 30 or 40 minutes each way per trip. And in that case, you could be almost 30 minutes into downtown Denver, but probably not quite. Fewer new construction options on that side of town, and also generally more expensive, again, for lifestyle. So you put all of that together where you have views over there more often, you don't have newer construction, you have great lifestyle, you will get traffic just getting into Denver. But that traffic piece really plays a part in how do you get that ultimate lifestyle that a lot of people are moving here for. It's often not just a job, it's often a way of being that they're leaving behind to come here to get. All right, if I didn't hit a topic that you're crazy interested in, let me know. You can reach out directly, or maybe it's something I need to do a video on. But I would love to connect with you, and I, of course, will see y'all next week.